Is Chernobylite 2 Exclusion Zone a worthy survival horror experience? Or does it stumble with clunky mechanics and rough combat? Let's break it down. The game picks up with a new protagonist, Cole Gray, a former military man from an alternate reality where humanity has harnessed Chernobylite for energy. What seems like a technological utopia is actually a world struggling with unemployment and desperation. In search of a way to support his family, Cole joins the NAR's Planewalker program, using a massive vessel called the Harvester to jump between dimensions and mine Chernobylite. This setup immediately throws Cole into chaos when a jump to a Chernobylite-rich world goes horribly wrong. The Harvester crashes, leaving Cole suspended for 9 months while recovering from injuries. When he wakes up, the world is an absolute nightmare, infested with mutants and an encroaching deadly barrier. The main goal is clear: find a way to return home before it's too late. Chernobylite 2 Exclusion Zone maintains the first game's strong focus on narrative, using cutscenes, dialogue, AI-driven environmental scans, and eerie flashbacks. If you enjoyed the convoluted but engaging storytelling of the first game, this one delivers a similar experience. However, if you prefer a more straightforward plot, the complex multi-dimensional premise might feel overwhelming. The core gameplay follows a daily cycle, completing story missions, scavenging for resources, recruiting allies from different factions, and expanding your base. One of the biggest changes is the shift to an RPG-style progression system. Instead of simple stealth and gunplay, Chernobylite 2 introduces melee, ranged, and Chernobylite-powered mage builds, each with its own playstyle. You can mix and match these styles to fit your approach, whether you want to be a brawler, a shooter, or something in between. The game also introduces core attributes that influence environmental interactions, dialogue choices, and character stats. Experience points can be used to upgrade these attributes, while an extensive perk tree linked to faction reputation allows for deeper customization. However, the combat system is where things get rough. The first game's gunplay was already one of its weaker aspects, and unfortunately, this sequel doesn't do much to improve it. Combat feels clunky, with floaty movement, melee attacks that clip through enemies, and lackluster impact feedback. The switch to a default third-person perspective makes sense for melee combat, but ranged combat feels unresponsive. Stealth is still an option, with the scanner's minimap helping you avoid enemies or take them out from the shadows, but the lack of satisfying enemy reactions makes every encounter feel a bit underwhelming. One of the highlights of Chernobylite 2 is its expanded base building system. The new plan view mode makes it easier to construct and manage your base, which now expands outward from a central hub. You can add dedicated room types, corridors, and high-tech crafting stations, but everything still requires scavenged materials. The improved UI makes it much more intuitive than the first game, and it works well with a gamepad. Exploration remains an essential part of the game. You'll need to scan the environment for resources, loot containers, and hunt for color-coded gear. Weapons and armor follow classic RPG rules. Anyone can equip them, but their stats are reduced if your attributes don't meet the requirements. This adds an extra layer of depth, forcing you to choose between upgrading gear or leveling up stats to use better equipment. The game runs on Unreal Engine 5, and while the visuals are technically impressive, they lack the haunting beauty of the first game. While Chernobylite had a distinct atmosphere filled with unsettling audio and eerie encounters, this sequel feels a little flat in comparison. Areas lack the detailed environmental storytelling that made the original so immersive. The rough animations, occasional texture pop-in, and missing ambient effects make it feel less polished, even for an early access build. The voice acting is another mixed bag. While some performances work well, many characters, especially those from Cole's dimension, sound a bit too smarmy or detached. This makes it harder to connect with the story and its characters. Chernobylite 2 Exclusion Zone sticks close to the first game's structure, with deep RPG mechanics, base building, and an ambitious sci-fi horror story. The expanded combat system and faction-based perks add more variety, but the execution still feels rough. Clunky combat, uninspired atmosphere, and inconsistent voice acting hold it back from reaching its full potential. If you enjoyed the original Chernobylite and want more of its unique blend of survival horror and strategy, this sequel might be worth checking out. But if you are hoping for smoother gameplay, better combat, and a more immersive atmosphere, you might want to wait for future updates. Chernobylite 2 Exclusion Zone has potential, But right now, it feels more like an experiment than a finished experience. Want to see how Chernobylite holds up in 2025? Whether you're a returning player or new to the series, our full Chernobylite review dives into everything you need to know about the game. Don't miss out. Click the link now to watch our deep dive into the world of Chernobylite and find out if it's still worth playing.